Okay, welcome everyone as we learn the Mishnah Yomis for this Sunday night, Sunday Shabbos Parshas Mishpatim, and Mirza Hashem, as we get ready for Rosh Chodesh Adar Aleph on Friday and Shabbos. We are finishing the 9th parak of Kesuvos and starting the 10th parak. Unbelievable in Shas Cotton as we make our way through Shas Cotton, sponsored by the Fisher family, Nishmas, Basi Bas Rabbi Shalom ben Avram Alevi, Pel Bas Ruven. We're also sponsored Le'ilui Nishmas, Chaim ben Avram ben Yamin Benish, for the schus of Avram ben Yamin Benish ben Malki Yudas and family, and for Shalem for Yomis ben Chai Sarah. We are going to be learning dedicated by Yoel Klugman for Gezun, Parnas, and Nagas, for Meir ben Chai Sarah, and we learn for our Chaver Adaf, Rabbi Kranz, Yaakov Avadia ben Freda Rivka. You should have a Refuah Shalema b'Seich Shar Chayil Yisrael. Now, in the olden days, as we start with Mishnah Tes, there was places where the minig was not to write a ksuva, and therefore the way she showed that she wasn't paid a ksuva is by producing the get. Hoitzia get, if she produces the get, ve'ein imoy ksuva, there was no ksuva with it because it was a place where the minig was not to write a ksuva. Goiva ksuva, she collects her ksuva. Ksuva ve'ein imoy get, she produced the ksuva, but she doesn't have the get. So the husband says, well, you don't have the get, that's probably because we ripped it, because I paid you the ksuva. She says, Avad Giti, I lost my get. And she says to him, if you paid me, where's the receipt? I lost my shaver. Let's say a creditor produces a promissory note, but it was after the Shemitah year, and he doesn't have the prusbul, which would prove that he took the precautions that Shmiya should not relinquish his debt. The Eini Moy Prusbul, he doesn't have the accompanying Prusbul. So either he doesn't have the accompanying Prusbul, or she doesn't have the get. In those cases, Ari Elu Lo Yiparu, they cannot claim payment. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer min hasakana ve'elach, from time of danger and onward, where it was forbidden to have a get, so as soon as the get was given, they would burn it, then Isha Gaiva Ksuvasa Shaloi Beget, she could collect a ksuva without the get, and if he wants to protect himself once he paid it, he would have to make sure to keep his receipt. Ubal Chayv Gaiva Shaloi Bepruzbal, and the Bal Chayv, the creditor, could collect even without the pruzbal because it wasn't safe to keep a pruzbal. Now, the Mishnah continues in this very long Mishnah to conclude the 9th parak. Shnei Giten Ushtei Kesuvos. If Sarah was married to Ruvain and got divorced and then remarried him and got divorced again, and she produces 2 Giten and she produces 2 Kesuvos, one from the first marriage and one from the second marriage. So then Goiva Shtei Kesuvos, then she collects 2 Kesuvos. But if Shtei Kesuvos v'get echad, if there's only one get and she produces 2 Kesuvos with 2 different dates, so then we say that the husband wrote a second Kesuva to up the amount, and that voided the first Kesuva, so she only could collect the bigger value of the second Kesuva. Or Kesuva Shnei Giten, or she produces 1 Kesuva and 2 Giten, because this was the normal custom, that if he takes her back, if he's a Mazik Dushasa, if he remarries her, he remarries her on the condition that she accepts the first Kesuva. So if there's only 1 Kesuva and 2 Giten, or Kesuva v'get Umisa, or there's 1 Kesuva, there was a get, and then they continued living together again, and he died, so she only collects 1 Kesuva. Eina Gaiv el Kesuva achas, because the norm is, Shemegarish is Ishtay, if somebody divorces his wife, Erzira, and takes her back before he paid the original Kesuva, Almanas Kesuva Rishayim Alzir. He doesn't say, I'll owe you the first Kesuva and I'll give you a second Kesuva, but they get married relying on the first original Kesuva. Now the Mishnah finishes off Cotton shesiu aviv, if a father marries off his minor son to a girl, and there's a promise of a ksuva, but that's not binding, because the marriage of the minor to the daughter is not a valid marriage, because the father has no license to marry off his minor son. He has a license to accept the kedusha on behalf of his minor daughter, but he has no license to marry off his minor son. So the original ksuva really wasn't binding. But if then, when the boy gets bar mitzvah, he continues to stay with her, then ksuvasa kayemes, the original ksuva that was made, is now binding. Shalmanas ken kima, because when he keeps her after he becomes an adult, he has in mind to do so with the understanding that the original ksuva would be binding. Similarly, Gershon is Gayer v'ishta yimai. If Tony married Mary as two Goyim, and he gave her a marriage settlement, a marriage, not settlement, dowry, and it was recorded. Of course, it's not halachic ksuva. They were both Goyim, and then they converted and they married. Ksuvasa kayemes, the original marriage agreement that they made when they were Tony and Mary, is now binding. Shalmanas ken kaima, but now that he's Matisyo and she's Miriam, he kept her in mind that the original contract should be binding. And now we start the 10th parak of Kesuvos. Misha yanosi shtei nashim. If, let's say, Reuven first married Sarah, and then he married Yocheved, and the ksuva of Sarah had an earlier date than the ksuva of Yocheved because he married her first. V'meis harishayna kedemes l'shniya. Sarah's claim for her ksuva precedes that of Yocheved because her date on her ksuva was earlier, and therefore, if there's not enough money, so they pay out the estate pays out Sarah and not Yocheved. And v'yoshe rishayna kaidmin liyoshe shniya. The heirs of Sarah precede the heirs of Yocheved. However, nasa eser rishayna, if he married Sarah, v'meisa, and she dies, then nasa shniya, he married then Yocheved. So since Sarah predeceased him, she lost the right to collect her ksuva. And then Nasa Shniya, he married Yocheved Umeisu, and he died. So Yocheved gets to collect her ksuva. Shniya, now, there is, Sarah's heirs have still a certain claim to the ksuva, and that's the ksuva's benin dichrin, that when both Yocheved and Sarah's children divide the estate, Sarah's children get the amount of her ksuva before they divide the rest of the estate. But Sarah's children only have a claim for ksuva's benin dichrin. They don't have there's no claim for the ksuva itself because Sarah predeceased Reuven. On the other hand, Yocheved outlived Reuven, so she has a claim for the ksuva itself. And therefore, Shniya v'Yosha, Yocheved, and her heirs, Kaidmin, they have a claim first for the ksuva, or their mother's ksuva, Kaidmin l'Yosha Rishayna, before the claim of Sarah's children for the ksuva's benin dichrin, for the ksuva of their mother. We want to thank you for joining us. We will, be'ezus Hashem, hopefully tomorrow night, have a chok after the daf. If anybody wants to sponsor the chok, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you very much. And by the way, if you want to sponsor the Chumash share, you could text or call that as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.